Welcome to a continuation of our faith series. This is episode number 12, and today I want to introduce the third sign in John's Gospel, the healing of the lame man by the pool. It's found in John chapter 5. Let me read the first few verses from that chapter, beginning in verse 2. Now in Jerusalem by the sheep gate there is a pool called in Hebrew Beth-Zatha, which has 5 porticos. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" Now, does that sound like a strange question to you? Jesus is asking a man who's been sick for 38 years, "Do you want to be made well?" And we might think, well, of course he wants to be well. He's been sick a long time. The question seems to have all of the grace of a bull in a china shop. But think about it. This is a serious question. Do you want to be made well? This man had been poolside for 38 years. Think about some of the perks that may have come with that kind of a life. There would have been no responsibilities, no 9-to-5 job to worry about. People would have carried him wherever he went. They would have been waiting on him hand and foot. And this was a life that he had grown familiar with. If Jesus makes him well, his life will change. And change is not always easy. So it's a serious question. Do you really want to be made well? Now think about this with me. Is Jesus saying something like this between the lines? Before I can make you well, you must want to be well. Before you can experience healing in your life, this must be your desire. I think that may be what he wants this man to think about. And that's worth thinking about on our subject of faith. Perhaps this is our first step too in our journey of faith. We must want to believe. We must have the will to believe before we can believe. Now, I understand that it's not enough to just want to believe. Just because we want to believe something doesn't make it true or real. We need good reasons for believing what we believe. We must consider evidence. There must be a warrant. It must be justified. I agree with all of that. But what I'm saying is, even with the evidence, even with the warrant, even with the justification, if we don't want to believe, we're not going to believe. This is our first step. We have to desire faith in God. And here is a cold, hard truth that we ought to consider. Some people just don't want to believe. You wonder why some folks have a hard time with faith in God? It's not that the evidence is not there to support faith. The evidence is there. It is rather that they don't want to believe. They don't have the will to believe. They don't want to give up their way of life. But we're not in their company, are we? If presented with solid evidence for faith in Jesus, we're willing to consider it. We want to believe if the evidence is there. But this is the first step. We must have the desire to consider faith in Jesus. And I know that you have that desire, just as I do. In our next video, we're going to talk about the healing of this lame man by the pool, the third sign, and I hope you will join me. And please feel free again to join the conversation. Drop me a line at holton.carey@gmail.com. I'll be glad to hear from you.